What's up, my Wizards Dev, SBMTG channel down there on the YouTube Voodoo Magic stuff. I'm coming to you on a literal dark and stormy night so I can give you the budget blue-white spirits deck. I like to call it boxed wine. Get it, cheap spirits? Blue-white spirits is a deck that plays sort of tempo-y aggro, you know? It plays a lot of 2 and 3 drops, mostly 3 drops, and a lot of our creatures do stuff when they enter the battlefield, which can be really fun. We'll have to see if we get more playable spirits out of Eldritch Moon, the other set in Shadows of Innistrad block, to see really where this deck goes from here. But right now, I actually think, hey Ziggy, I actually think it's got a pretty interesting form, so let's take a look at it. Start with the creatures. We're playing 25 of them. That's kind of a lot. We'll start with 4 copies of Topple Guys because it's a 1-drop, you know. You're not going to get the Delirium every day on this, even without Delirium online, which is mostly how I want to look at the card, you know. Still 1 mana, 1/1 flyer. It's going to get through from some damage, and if you play it all the way through turn 5, 6, it's going to have some amount of relevance, you know. I wouldn't say it's the best top deck ever because on turn 9, it's not really a great card, but on turn 4, pretty decent card, honestly, if you're just trying to smash through for damage. 4 copies of Rattle Chains, best card in the deck, maybe? Like, seriously. Stats are fine, 2 mana, 2/2, flying, flash, all those things are good. And the fact that it gives the other, 20 some odd creatures we're playing in the deck the ability to be played any old time is awesome. We just talked about Topple Guys. Topple Guys as a combat trick is actually really good. Here's something else that works well with Rattle Chains. 3 copies of Anafenza Kintree Spirit, which is a spirit. Pretty awesome that this is a spirit. And this works well with Rattle Chains in that if you have a Rattle Chains and an Anafenza on the board, and you play a creature, you get the bolster trigger on their turn if you play the creature with Flash. That can actually be really important, like really, really important, and deter them from doing stuff, you know? I like this card without Rattle Chains, though. We play Anafenza on our turn 2, and from then on, we're set up to get a bigger creature than we're supposed to. Pretty much every turn after that, you know. Spreading an extra point of power every turn we play a creature can actually get pretty awesome pretty quick. And let's say, we follow the Anafenza up with a Blessed Spirits on turn 3. Well, we have a 3/3 flyer that we can put extra counters on when we play enchantments. That's awesome. Really, I would play 4 Anafenza, honestly, if the stupid legend rule wasn't a thing. So I want to play like 6 of this if I could get away with it. Here's something else I'd play 12 of if I legally could. There's 4 copies of Bygone Bishop in the deck. This is the first time I've really experimented with the Investigate mechanic in a deck, and I gotta say, this card at least, I don't know about the mechanic itself and all the other cards printed with it, this card is pretty darn good, you know? 25 creatures in the deck, and every single one of them that we play can trigger Bygone Bishop. We've got nothing but 3 mana costs and less creatures in the deck. So if we've got a Bishop out, literally any creature that we play will get us a clue token. Being able to, get a little bit more gas when you start running out in the sort of mid to late game, turn 6, turn 7, can be really, really important. It's also worth noting that if you've got, say, a Rattle Chains out and a couple of clue tokens, you can sacrifice the tokens at the end of their turn and try to draw creatures, which you can then also play at the end of their turn. That's cool, A lot of cards working in concert here, but mostly Bygone Bishop is a 3 mana, 2/3 flyer, decent stats right there. That gives you extra value for every creature that you play after him. That's awesome. Just remember that drawing cards is good. Drawing cards is good. 3 copies of Blessed Spirits in the deck. We're playing 8 enchantments, believe it or not, in the deck. And I've been able to get Blessed Spirits up to a 5/5 in a game before. That's pretty good, right? Really do like this card, by the way, and I've liked it in other decks that I've played. I built like Budget Starfield 6, 8 months ago, and I loved this card in that. I've already mentioned that we can get a 3/3 flyer on turn 3 if we follow an Anafenza with this. That's cool. Maybe next turn we play an Invocation of St. Traft on this. Suddenly we have a 4/4 flyer that makes 4/4 flyers. Pretty awesome. 3 copies of Spectral Shepherd in the deck. I really, really like this card, actually. It's cool that you can play it with Flash, because if you have a Rattle Chains out, because you can play it for essentially 5 mana, You play it for 3, and then you pop something back to your hand. That can be cool against removal, Actually, very important against removal. This is also pretty decent against mass removal, allowing us to save a spirit or 2 sometimes. So, and on top of that, it's a 2-power flyer. So, just, actually been a kind of important card for the deck. I might want to play 4s. I've liked the card more than I thought I would. Not to mention that a lot of our creatures have enter the battlefield triggers, which is really, really awesome. We can basically just pop a creature back to our hand at the end of their turn, then play it on our turn again for some extra value. So this card actually does a lot of stuff, from saving our creatures to being able to yo-yo them and get more value out of them. Love this thing. The only problem is it can't return this. 4 copies of Reflector Mage, which, yeah, I'm putting in the deck. This is a blue-white deck. I don't care if this isn't a spirit, Blue-white, reasonably budget card. If you've got 4 copies lying around, I think it's worth going off theme to play this thing. I mean, I'm sorry, but Reflector Mage is just like the best uncommon in the format, maybe, and maybe one of the top like 15 cards in the format right now. It's just like, so the fact that this and Collected Company exist in the same format has completely changed standards. So I don't really see that being any different as long as they're both in the format, which they will both be in the format for a little while now, because Collected Company won't rotate for a few months. So, and in this deck, the card is really, really that good too, actually. Just if you're playing the colors to play Reflector Mage, I'd play it. The card's really good. As previously stated, 8 enchantments in the deck. That's kind of a surprise, but budget deck, and White has a lot of good budget enchantments, a lot of which are removal, starting with 4 copies of Pacifism in the deck. If you've got the extra money, you know, I'd probably play Silk Wrap over Pacifism, all things considered. But Pacifism has its good points, you know. We can play this on a creature as big as we want. We can't do that with Silk Wrap. And we get pretty outclassed by big creatures, but I'll talk about that actually in a moment. I'll make an aside on how I feel about big creatures in the format moving forward. But we have to have something to deal with creatures that like completely outclass our creatures. And Pacifism is actually pretty decent removal and has been for nearly 20 years. So I'm playing Pacifism. I've never not liked this card. We're playing 2 Vessel of Ephemera in the deck for multiple reasons. Bye, Ziggy. Are you just going to hang out like right there? Yeah, you do what you want to do. In any case, multiple reasons to play the card. Not only does it obviously make spirits, so it's at least on theme. It makes 2 of them, that's pretty good. But also it's an enchantment that we can put in the graveyard to help activate the Delirium on Topple Guys. That can be important. And it's an enchantment that when we cast it, we get to put the +1/+1 counter on Blessed Spirits. So this one little enchantment is actually a little bit more synergistic than it looks at first glance. It has actually been nice. I don't know that I'd play more than a couple of copies of it or anything, because it's not like super important, but it does do just enough that I want to play at least a couple copies. 2 copies of Invocation of Saint Trapped in the deck. Yeah, it's here. I had a guy in the comments section when I first mentioned blue-white spirits be like, caveat, you know, condition, you have to play at least 1 copy of Invocation. I want to play like more copies of this than I'm even playing here, and I'm playing 2. Card has actually been really good. I've already pointed out with Blessed Spirits. Play Blessed Spirits turn 3, play this turn 4, swinging with Blessed Spirits, and you'll have, you know, at least a 3/3 flyer and a 4/4 flyer swinging in. That's pretty good right there. Not only that, but on turn 4, post boards, you can back that play up with a Dispel or an Invasive Surgery and counter any removal that they want to try and play. That can be pretty important too. Remember too that unless they have instant speed removal, it comes down on a guy and immediately makes a 4/4 flyer. In a lot of ways, this is like having a 3-mana 4/4 flyer with haste. Seriously, it actually plays that way. So that sounds pretty good right there. And it's not just because it's on flavor that I like the card, you know. I've actually been a huge fan of this card so far in testing. I always like want to see it, you know. Like it reminds me, like as far as 3-mana auras go, it's on the level to me of like Armadillo Cloak. Like it feels that good. We're playing 4 other spells in the deck, and they're all instants. We're playing 2 copies of Celestial Flare in the deck, and this is where I want to go on my little aside that I was talking to you about earlier. We're playing Celestial Flare in the deck because I feel like just maybe, Ojutai will be an even more important card moving forward in this format. Hear me out. We lose Crackling Doom in this format, which is going to perhaps make bigger creatures more important. I've already brought this up a couple of times, and I just really want to hammer it home here, that I think things like Ojutai and Reality Smasher get much better in the absence of something like Crackling Doom. It's not going to be in the format. That sucks. We also lose Disdainful Stroke. That takes care of big creatures. We lose Valorous Stance. That takes care of big creatures. And right now, like post-rotation, most of the premier removal in the format will be slightly restricted to smaller creatures. You know, Grasp of Darkness can't hit anything over 4 toughness. Roast can't hit anything over 5 toughness. Silk Wrap can't hit anything over 3 converted mana cost. So big creatures look really, really good to me right now. That said, that's why we need something like Celestial Flare, because we won't have anything remotely resembling Crackling Doom to take out something like Ojutai or any other hexproof creatures that manage to be, you know, just around the corner in the next set for all we know. You know what I mean? But right now, Ojutai is the thing I really want to take out. And sure, you can play like Immolating Glare. I can see doing that instead of Celestial Flare. But Celestial Flare's been just fine for me. You know, instant speed, make you sacrifice a guy, and sure, if you're playing against tokens, you probably board this out. And to finish off the main deck here, 2 copies of Ojutai's Command, which was 1 copy, but I bumped it up to 2 copies. This is really, really good with, say, Rattle Chains. That's awesome. It's pretty good with Anafenza. It can get both of those creatures back. Remember that. It's also not bad just getting a Topple guys back, especially if you happen to now have Delirium. That can be pretty good to get a Topple guys back. But, you know, gaining 4 life, drawing a card, and in this case, countering big creatures, because everything I just said about big creatures I think holds true. So countering creatures that like far outclass us in PT and abilities is actually really important. So like getting back an Anafenza and countering a big creature is just amazing. It makes Ojutai's Command definitely worth playing as far as I'm concerned. 23 lands in the deck. Are you used to seeing Evolving Wilds in my builds yet this season? I'm just playing this card again to help us get Delirium on the Topplegeist in this case. Just 4 copies of Evolving Wilds, that makes it very easy to get a land in the graveyard, and Evolving Wilds really isn't half bad to begin with, especially in a budget deck. We're playing mostly basic lands anyway. Now, if you don't want to play budget, you know, if you got a couple of bucks, Port Town works well, obviously. Prairie Stream works well, but those are no-brainer upgrades. Aside from that, if we're just playing budget, just stick with, you know, Plains and Islands, and you'll do fine. Here's the sideboard for you right here. I've already brought this up a couple of times. You know, Dispel and Invasive Surgery, mostly against removal. Also, Dispel can be good against Collected Company. That's an important card to have to be able to counter with Dispel. And Invasive Surgery also good against Mass Removal, which can really cripple us. So I like both of these 1-mana blue counter spells here in this format. Essence Flux, another 1-mana blue spell that could make the main deck. Not only is it good with all of our Enter the Battlefield effects on our, you know, spirits, but it's also good with Reflector Mage. That's like the best Enter the Battlefield trick in the deck, and even though you won't get the +1/+1 counter on it, it's not a spirit, you still got to blink your Reflector Mage, so I think Essence Flux might be main deckable. And here's your power rankings for the deck. A final score of 57. We do a couple of things pretty well. Our evasion is the strongest thing, you know, almost all of our creatures fly. That's awesome. We've also got a little bit more defense than it looks like we have. We have Pacifism, Celestial Flare, Reflector Mage, you know, that's all together like, what, 10 pieces of removal? That's actually pretty good. So we do things a little bit better than we might think, although pre-boards our resiliency is fairly low. Although, you know, Bygone Bishop is a pretty resilient card in and of himself, and a couple of other things we're playing too. Best news is that the deck is only going to cost us anywhere between $15 and $20 or so on TCG Player right now. And that's with pre-order prices. Remember, they tend to go down. Once the set comes out, people start opening product, those copies of those cards hit the marketplace, so, you know, demand goes down, supply goes up. So it's, you know, there's a lot of principles working that basically work towards, you know, cards go down once the set releases. So the deck will get even cheaper in just, say, a month, you know, once cards start sort of getting cemented into how playable they are in Standard, Modern, Commander, in different formats. And cards that don't get cemented as playable in those formats will sharply decline. So the deck could be even cheaper to play in just a couple of months here. And it's really cheap to play now, and it's pretty fun. You know, we play a lot of 2- and 3-mana flyers, which is always a pretty fun strategy. And we get to play Invocation of St. Trap, which is just one of the funnest cards in Standard, and is underestimated, by the way. I'm going to make a video soon that's like the top 10 sleepers of Shadows over Innistrad, you know, cards that people might not think are good right now, but actually are, or maybe after, you know, the next rotation they'll be good. I'm thinking about putting Invocation on there. This card has been really good. What I said earlier is totally real. If they don't have instant speed removal, this is more or less a 3-mana 4/4 flying haste. That's all I got for now. Let me know how you felt about this one. As far as I can tell, Blue-White Spirits isn't a complete deck just yet, and we'll probably have to wait for at least 1 or 2, maybe, more pieces out of Eldritch Moon. But right now, we can play this version of the deck, which is actually pretty good. It opens us up to be, you know, we don't have as many good spirits to play. Ziggy. But we have, you know, decent removal. We can play sort of a pseudo-enchantment strategy with Blessed Spirits and Invocation of Saint Trap and a couple of other enchantments, you know. We get to play removal enchantments like Pacifism, if you have the money, Silk Wrap. So I actually have really liked the way the deck plays right now. I just can't wait to see if it gets a couple of more strong pieces. But what's next, you might ask? Good question. Next, I'm probably almost certainly going to do Angels next. There was a pretty big response to Mono White Angels in the comments section of the last video. I'm probably going to do that. I also promised you Black White Eldrazi about 3 weeks or a month ago. I should probably do that because it's looking good. And there's a couple of more decks that I'm working on right now that I'm keeping on my sleeve. But let me know, of course, as always, what you want to see, and I'll get working on that. I might already be working on it, actually. If you enjoyed this here deck tech here, what you should do is smash that thumbs up button, because that really is the thing that helps the channel the absolute most, and it doesn't really take you any effort. Just be like, click. And that helps us like a crazy amount. So please do that for me. Share if you're into it, you know. And then, you know, you can also comment. I asked you to do that already, but I'm serious. Let me know how you felt about this. And if there's maybe any ways of improving it, something that you'd like to put in that I didn't put in, I'm always interested in that. I do read your comments. And then sub if you're new, or if you've just been too lazy to sub yet. You should sub. He sounded like Jerry Seinfeld at the end of that last one. You should sub. That's my Jerry Seinfeld impression. It's not very good. You should sub. See you guys later. Sorry for the meltdown here at the end. See you guys later. Thanks for watching, my wizards.
Feel like something in my soul is just raising. I got a bounce in my step and I'm hanging tough. New persona, I'm hotter than Arizona. My aura corona, and I'll be sicker than pneumonia.
We're playing 4. What the hell is that?